all over the place. And people do forget when you're monitored constantly by CCTV, people forget, people, behave as if there isn't CCTV in the stadium. They do it when they're walking down the road or getting in trouble or doing this and doing that. And you must forget. I mean, we've got CCTV cameras in the office at work, and you forget they're there. So, while some of it appears to be staged, a high percentage of what we see must, I'm assuming, just be things that go on a day-to-day basis. And you're just seeing chats between young men under 30. Do you know what I mean? It's what do you expect them to be like? Corporate, people wearing suits and being aware of their behaviour and.
I've really enjoyed all that. I really have enjoyed this behind the scenes look at what these players are like.
Just their little chats.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously times where, like, so, when Sissoko for New Year's Eve, he phones. I'm assuming it's his brother, and Aurier phones back like someone in some member of his family as well. And like with Sissoko, after he's spoken to his brother, he talks. Someone's asking the question, so he's aware obviously that there's someone in there. He's like that.
Yeah, of course.
That whole thing would have been recorded and actually recorded with someone being present in the room.
Yeah.
For that person to then to then pose him questions, and that I don't know how I'd feel about that. Trying to have a personal conversation with family, and with with a camera on me, and then someone. I think it's different having a fixed camera there than to actually having someone sat there listening to the conversation with you, waiting to ask you questions about the conversation you just had.
I think you're right. I think you also wouldn't have the as open a conversation as you'd expect to have,
or that you'd like to have. That you want to have. No, it's interesting. And then obviously you had. So we covered the whole. That episode covers the whole Christmas period where they're as fans, we all go, oh, fucking all their shit. They don't give a shit. They all that sort of stuff, but they have to sacrifice stuff for our entertainment. And throughout that period, obviously, we had a significant number of games, which actually culminated, obviously, in Kane picking up his injury. And they, as Toby said, for them, the simple things would be, the things that they would enjoy. So just spending time with their family over the festive period would be like something that they'd love to do.
Well, he said he couldn't buy that, didn't he? So, there's certain things money can't buy, and he can't, he's earning shed loads of money, and he can't turn around and drop 200 grand just to spend Christmas Day with his kids. And, but that's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, that's their life. Yeah, until they retire, and then they can do all that, I guess. But they're going to miss their kids on certain parts of a Christmas period, which is
and you saw we last, I think on the last review we spoke about Sissoko and how they were surprised by Sissoko's influence in the changing room, and we saw a bit more of that obviously with the Aurier but like happy birthday sort of thing. And it just feels like, you start to get to understand some of these players' characters a bit more. And, he's obviously got a bit of a personality behind him, that we start to see, and you kind of get to warm to a little bit. I thought it was good. It was interesting about, we talk about, on Twitter, we talk about the people moaning about the lack of options for strikers and stuff like that. But if you look at that period, it was clear in terms of the fact that we didn't have an option to rotate. We don't, if you look at like Kane and Sonny and Mora, who are pushed in as strikers, they're not rotated as strikers. So when Kane is fit, if the club and the management truly saw them as actual out and out strikers, then they, in my opinion, they would rotate them as strikers through busy periods. To give Kane a rest and to manage the situation, but we don't do that. We play Kane every time he's that he's available, and we only ever really consider Son or Mora or whoever or Delhi as a striking option when Kane isn't available, which indicates that actually, when it turned out that Kane was injured and Mourinho said we're fucked and whatever, we obviously don't. We're sort of surviving off of one striker, and that's certainly a situation you would think that would change.
And on the show, they mentioned that we need another striker. It was, the club's completely aware of it. They know that they need to get one, but as Levy explained, it's hard to get the right person. And as we'll come on later to Steve Hitch-en, he was told that he gets a set of parameters from Jose that Jose wants, and that's what he works to. Steve Hitch-en isn't going to just go out and get any old striker.
Yeah, but this is what I find hard to work with or to understand or to deal with, is that, with Pochettino, we're kind of given the same reasoning, aren't we? That Pochettino gives criteria, and we struggled to find an adequate person to fill that. And I think over the years, obviously, Pochettino did have a couple of people that came in or that were brought in. The last being Llorente, but you kind of think, well, what is the criteria that they're setting then that is so difficult to fulfill? Because what is it they're wanting apart from the criteria being that the person brought in has to recognise that they're a backup, which may that wording may be sufficient.
It's not really positive, is it?
To stop anyone coming in. Why would I? I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to be a backup to anyone. I'm not going to take a role where I think, well, I'm only there as a backup.
I agree. I think that's the key point, though, isn't it? Is that the striker that comes in isn't really a backup. It's someone to actually help fight for that position that Kane's got, because, as they said, they want to find people that are better than we've already got. They want to improve the team. They don't necessarily want to just bring in anybody. It's, that doesn't. There is a balance to this.
But James, I'll let you come in on this as well. But if you're looking for someone that's better than Kane, then you're saying that you want to go and get Ronaldo or Messi. I thought, given what. Given how we talk about Kane and we say that Kane is like, best English striker that out there, best, third best striker in the world, the most complete striker, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. Then we're looking at what we're saying. We can only go and get Ronaldo, Messi, and probably Lewandowski as players to be his backup. That doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Levy talked about that pyramid, didn't he? The fact
but it's not. That's the problem. It's not, for me. It's not. You're not buying someone to be better than him, because we already said that we want someone that's only going to be kind of like a backup to him. So why would we want someone that's going to be better than Kane as a backup? We don't want someone that's better. We want
practically you can't buy someone who's better. So you have to buy someone who is as best as you can get, I guess.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the logic, really, isn't it? I mean, if you can get somebody in that's better than Kane, then sell Kane, get the money, and get the better person in, and and the team would evolve from there. But are they going around saying we need a backup to Kane? Because if you say we want someone to compete with Kane, then the incoming striker would be saying, well, hang on, if I'm competing with Kane, Kane's on $200,000 a week. If I'm his equal, then I want 200 or near on 200,000 a week. Whereas when they say, you're backup, we're offering you 70,000, they're like, yeah, go with it. Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah, this is it.
No one's taken it so far.
No.
Pull their finger out their arse. We are going to talk about that, I'm sure, in a little while in a little bit more detail. But what were the was there anything else before we move on to, obviously conscious of time, we need to cover the other two episodes, but anything else that you picked out, Jamie, from the first episode that we covered?
I've got two things on episode 4. Is number one, Mourinho is very calm, focused in the changing room. He goes on about positivity, belief, friends, family is important in life and football. You can lose matches, but you cannot have regrets. And what we've seen, I think, in this documentary is a totally different side to Mourinho than what anyone really expected. I was expecting, no doubt he does do the hairdryer treatment.
Yeah. And go on.
But generally, he appears to be, from the 2 or 3 snippets we've seen at half time, all about positivity, belief, mentality, strength in character, looking after your mates, looking out for your mates.
There was an interesting, and I can't remember which episode it's in, but there was an interesting clip actually where he does the whole be positive, we need to do this, blah 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 blah, and I can't remember what game it was, but he said now. He then went on and said, we need to go on. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah,
and
that was the Man City game.
Yeah, and then that cut off, and they cut that off, and they didn't show.
They did.
They don't show what the tactics are.
That was so intriguing, wasn't it?
So that means actually, there's a whole load of shit that we're not actually seeing. There's a whole load of shit that we're not actually seeing at halftime, which obviously stands to reason. But there's a whole load of shit that we're not actually seeing in terms of technical detail, in terms of information that's going in that actually, beyond when it gets cut, you're like, fucking up, boys. Right, the cameras are off now. Fucking sort yourselves out. So it was, he's calm. It is. I picked up on the calmness and a lot of the stuff that he said. Certainly, some of that bit you said about the family and all that, and positivity and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, really interesting. And I kind of picked that up from the first episode. The fourth episode. But then we go into episode 5, and he talks, and it's that thing where he says, right, okay, now we're going to discuss, and then the camera cuts.
Yeah.
So you wonder how much we're missing.
Can I just mention the second point quickly as well, just in relation to the medical team? Jeff Scott, the head of the medical team, is it just me, or does he seem to enjoy giving bad news? Because he always seems to have a slight little smirk on his face when he's saying, by the way,
I don't know.
Stoko's injured now.
I think probably medical teams end up giving bad news, don't they? That's the problem. It's when they're going to talk to the manager, it's all about an issue rather than...
But he seems to have a little smirk.
I'm not sure how much he enjoys that, because he, when he tried to talk to Mourinho, he's chatting away. And Mourinho kind of goes well, just how many is it then? So he's trying to explain to someone. He went, right, I think when he got to Walker, do you remember he said about Walker? He was going, right, this one's injured, that one's injured. Walker Peters, and he said Walker Peters, and then you can see Mourinho's a bit for fuck's sake. So Walker Peters, that blah blah blah. Right, so that's 10 people. That's all I need to know. And it was he doesn't really Mourinho. I don't think Mourinho particularly wanted to know the details. You know what I mean? Because he just wants to know, right, what am I working with? How many have I got left? You know what I mean? As you say. Jeff probably, he's coming along giving bad news, and every time he wants to see Mourinho, it's never going to be, by the hay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Moussa Sissoko's thighs perfectly well.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's very rare. It's very rare that he's sent to deliver good news, and he goes and speaks to him about Lamella every couple of weeks.
So,
You'll probably find out that Jeff's an Arsenal or Chelsea supporter, and he's purposely making our players unfit and injured. And he's really enjoying himself. He's been employed by Abramovich and the Russians. So,
actually, one thing I didn't realise about him is that he's a Kiwi. After all these years, I didn't know that.
Who, the physio?
Yeah.
You mean nationality, not the fruit?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's he's got a bit of Kiwi DNA.
It's a bit fruity, yeah. What I found about talking about the physios, and there's a guy, there's a bald-headed guy, and they all seem to, it feels like they all seem to have develop an accent to talk to the
one that was massaging Stevie B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't just, it wasn't just with Stevie B, but they all seem to talk with an accent and cut off a couple of words here and there, and kind of talk non-English people talking English to these foreign football stars, and you think, that's actually not a fluid sentence that you put together. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? A bit?
Yeah. And they go ball good, so we're playing well. Yeah.
Well, you mean it's a bit like a franglais. So when you're in France, you're speaking English in a French accent to try and get it across.
Pretty much. That's
a bit like Steve McLaren when he went off to manage in Holland. And,
That's right.
His first press press conference, he was Dutch, wasn't he?
It was. That was bonkers.
It's exactly